Hi, my name is Paddy Howe. I'm the geologist at Lyme Regis Museum, and I'm going to tell you a bit about ammonites. And, these are one of the most recognisable fossils that people find. And people often think that ammonites were snail-like creatures that they crawled along the seafloor or crawled over rocks. They're actually far more interesting than that. They were cephalopod mollusks, and what that means is they're related to squid, octopus, cuttlefish, things like that. And this is what we think an ammonite looked like. Most have a spiral shell, the body contained in part of the outer whorl of the shell, quite well developed eyes, tentacles, mouth in the centre, but we don't really know that they looked exactly like this. The soft parts of ammonites have never been found, and really when we reconstruct ammonites, it's based on a modern animal called the pearly nautilus. This is the shell of a modern nautilus. Nautilus, similarly have big eyes and a whole bunch of tentacles that would come out here. They don't crawl around across things at all. They would actually float around in the water. So the animal lived in this part of the shell, around to about here. That part's called the body chamber. The rest of the shell is divided into a series of chambers. These were filled with a mixture of gas and water, and these would allow the animal to float around. They had a little tube called the siphon. They'd use this tube to take in water to oxygenate the gills, and they'd squirt the water out again. And they could do that really quite quickly, so they were essentially jet propelled, but in various degrees of backwards. Not a very smooth or fluid movement, probably really quite a jerky, bobbing movement. And when we look at the fossils of ammonites, if I show you these, you can see these rather beautiful pale yellow ammonites, but each one has a darker piece coming from the aperture, the opening of the shell, about halfway around the outer whorl. And that's the body chamber. So when the animal died and the shell was empty, mud could get into the aperture, the opening. It went around until it hit the first chamber wall. The mud couldn't get past that first chamber wall, but water could still get in. And if that water is rich in calcium carbonate, it builds up calcite crystal inside. So these are solid crystal ammonites. Usually when we find ammonites, we may find just one or two, perhaps a piece like that. But occasionally we find these large clusters of ammonites. And there's usually a good reason for that. On the back of this piece is the impression that there used to be a piece of fossil wood. Now the wood's long gone. These ammonites, almost certainly the empty shells, have washed along the seafloor, washed up against that obstruction. They almost certainly didn't live or die at the same time. It's more unusual to find big clusters of ammonites like this. This is a less than complete stone. This stone would have been at least this kind of size. Almost certainly somewhere here in the stone would have been a piece of wood, and all these ammonite shells had washed up against it. In this piece, this is a piece I found on the beach recently. I haven't done anything to this at all. You can perhaps see this brown round piece on the end, and same on the other end, and that's a piece of fossil wood going all the way through. And I don't know how well you can see this, but just here is just the very edge of an ammonite that's washed up against that. So what I will do sometime is to prepare this, clean the stone away, have a nice piece of wood with at least one ammonite against it. There's a good chance there may be others inside. If you learn to recognise the right sort of stone, ammonites like this are fairly common around Lyme Regis. This is a stone I found last year. It's kind of lens-shaped, smooth and grey, usually featureless. We try to split the stones this way. When I found this stone, it was complete. I broke this end off to make a flat surface so I could hit the stone here and find out what was inside. And I got lucky with this stone, because inside it's a nice big ammonite, one called Zipheroceros. It's not complete, there's a part missing here, but that really is quite a nice specimen. The ammonites we find come in a range of colours, and people often think that the colours are related to the colour of the ammonite in life. That's not the case. If I show you some of these, a nice kind of milky white ammonite here. This one, got a white part, a brown part, and a little dark part. That chamber of the ammonite filled with a mineral called sphalerite. The rest of the chamber is filled with calcite, and that's what we most commonly find. I've got one here, and again, I don't know if you'll see this, but it's actually a little translucent, since it's almost clear calcite crystal. Very occasionally, we come across ones with a more unusual preservation. Well, this ammonite just here, there's a little iridescent patch, and depending which angle you look at it from, it's green or it's blue or it's red. It's absolutely amazing, really beautiful. In some places, in places like Madagascar, every other ammonite looks like that. But here it's about 1 in 1,000. So they really are quite rare in the local rocks. I've got another piece here. So here's the rock. Ooh, just getting together. So this is the piece of rock. I've hit it along here. And there inside is another iridescent ammonite. But like I say, you won't find one of these most days.